We judge constantly. That person is lazy. This one is arrogant. She's too emotional. He's too cold. We evaluate everyone we meet, categorizing them into good or bad, right or wrong, worthy or unworthy. But ancient Taoist philosophy teaches something radically different. Don't judge at all. Not because judgment is morally wrong, but because judgment distorts reality. It clouds perception. It creates suffering for both the judge and the judged. Today we explore why Taoists never judge others, what they do instead, and why the power of observing without evaluating might be the most liberating practice you'll ever learn. The nature of judgment. What is judgment? It's the act of placing something into categories based on our personal standards. We measure people against our expectations, our beliefs, our values, and then declare them sufficient or insufficient. This seems natural. We're taught to judge from childhood, make good choices, avoid bad people, distinguish right from wrong. Judgment appears to be necessary for survival, for wisdom, for moral living. But Taoism questions this entirely. The Tao Te Ching says, when people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. This is a fundamental problem with judgment. It's dualistic. It creates opposites. You can't have good without bad. You can't have beautiful without ugly. Every judgment creates its opposite. And once you've created these categories, you're trapped in them. You must constantly evaluate which side of the line everything falls on. This is exhausting. But more importantly, it's not real. The categories exist only in your mind. Reality doesn't divide itself into good and bad. Those are human constructs. Water doesn't judge whether it flows downhill or uphill. It simply flows where nature takes it. Trees don't judge whether spring is good and winter is bad. They participate in both seasons naturally. The Tao operates without preference, without evaluation, without judgment. And Taoism teaches that humans should do the same. Why Taoists avoid judgment? First reason, judgment is based on limited perspective. You see a small slice of someone's life, a brief moment, and you evaluate their entire being. But you don't know their history, their struggles, their internal world. The Zhuangzi tells a story of a man whose horse ran away. Neighbors said this was bad luck, but the horse returned with wild horses. They said this was good luck, but his son broke his leg taming one. They said bad luck, but war came and his son couldn't fight, was spared. They said good luck. The story continues endlessly. The point, you never know enough to judge whether something is truly good or bad. What seems bad becomes good. What seems good becomes bad. Your judgment is always premature, always incomplete. Second reason, judgment comes from ego. When you judge others, you're comparing them to your standards. You're saying, this is how things should be, based on my experience, my beliefs, my preferences. But the Tao Te Ching teaches, the sage has no fixed mind. He adapts to the minds of the people. Judgment requires a fixed mind. It requires believing your perspective is correct. Your standards are universal. But Taoism says your perspective is just one of infinite perspectives. Why should your standards apply to everyone? Why should others live according to your values? This is egocentrism disguised as morality. Third reason, judgment creates separation. The moment you judge someone, you place them outside yourself. You create an us versus them dynamic. You are good, they are bad. You are wise, they are foolish. This separation is artificial. The Tao Te Ching says, the sage embraces all things. He doesn't reject the bad, to prefer the good. He sees that all things are one. When you judge, You fragment reality into acceptable and unacceptable. You reject part of existence. But Taoism teaches that everything is part of the Tao. Everything has its place. Nothing is outside the natural order. Judgment refuses this unity. It creates division where none exists. What Taoists do instead? If Taoists don't judge, what do? They observe. Observation without evaluation. This is seeing what is without adding the label good or bad. You notice behavior without condemning it. You perceive patterns without declaring them wrong. The Tao Te Ching says, the sage observes the world but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. He doesn't try to control. He doesn't try to evaluate. He simply sees clearly what is happening without the distortion of judgment. This is radically different from how most people operate. We don't just see behavior. We immediately evaluate it. He did that and that's bad. She said that and that's wrong. We add layers of interpretation, categorization, judgment on top of simple observation. Taoist observation is clean perception. Someone acts. You notice. You don't add your judgment about whether they should have acted differently. You don't compare their action to your standards. You simply see it as it is. This creates clarity. Judgment creates distortion. Think of water again. Water doesn't judge the shape of the container it fills. It simply conforms to whatever shape exists. It doesn't say this container is good, that container is bad. It adapts to reality as it is. Taoist observation works the same way. You adapt to what is, not to what you think should be. The practical benefits. Why does this matter practically? First, it reduces suffering. Most of our anger, frustration, and disappointment comes from judgment. People should be different. The world should work differently. This constant evaluation of reality against your preferences creates endless dissatisfaction. When you observe without judging, the suffering decreases. Things are as they are. People are as they are. You're not constantly measuring reality against your expectations and finding it lacking. Second, it improves relationships. When you stop judging others, they feel it. They relax. They're more authentic. Judgment creates defensiveness. People sense when you're evaluating them. They hide, they perform, they protect themselves. Observation without judgment creates safety. People can be themselves. Third, it increases wisdom. Judgment closes your mind. Once you decided someone is bad or wrong, you stop learning from them. But observation keeps you open. You might disagree with someone's actions, but you remain curious about why they act that way. This curiosity is wisdom. The Zhuangzi says, the sage wanders freely among things but does not evaluate them. He sees all perspectives without clinging to any. This is true understanding. Fourth, it creates inner peace. Constant judgment is exhausting. You're always evaluating, always measuring, always deciding what's acceptable. This requires enormous mental energy. When you stop judging, this energy becomes available for other things. You're not mentally arguing with reality all day. You're not constantly comparing people to your standards. You simply observe, accept, and move on. This is restful. How to observe without judging? This is a practical question. How do you actually stop judging? It's not easy. Judgment is habitual. But Taoism offers methods. First, notice when you're judging. Catch yourself in the act. That person is lazy. Wait, that's a judgment. The fact is, that person is moving slowly. Lazy is your evaluation. Separate the observation from the judgment. Second, ask, what do I actually know? Usually very little. You see one behavior in one moment. You don't know the context. You don't know the history. Recognize your ignorance. The Tao Te Ching says, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." Judgment is speaking confidently about things you don't fully understand. Observation is admitting you don't know enough to evaluate. Third, practice perspective taking. Why might this person act this way? What circumstances might explain their behavior? You don't need to excuse harmful actions, but understanding creates space between observation and judgment. Fourth, remember your own complexity. You're not one thing. You're not simply good or bad. You contain contradictions. You act differently in different circumstances. You've made mistakes and done kind things. If you're complex, everyone else is too. The categories of good and bad don't capture human complexity. Observation acknowledges this. Judgment ignores it. Fifth, return to the present moment. Judgment often comes from replaying the past or worrying about the future. He did that terrible thing yesterday. She might do something wrong tomorrow. Observation happens now. What is actually occurring right now? Stay here. Don't add stories from past or future. The limits of non-judgment. Important clarification. Observing without judging doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean allowing harm. You can observe that someone's behavior is harmful without judging them as a bad person. You can protect yourself and others without condemning anyone's essential nature. The Tao Te Ching teaches, the sage is kind to the kind and also kind to the unkind. This is true kindness. Kindness doesn't require approval. It doesn't require judgment. You can be kind to someone while disagreeing with their actions. You can set boundaries without condemning them. Non-judgment also doesn't mean moral relativism. You can have values. You can believe certain actions cause harm. But there's a difference between saying this action causes harm and saying this person is bad. The first is practical observation. The second is unnecessary judgment. Taoism focuses on consequences rather than character. Does this action align with natural harmony or disrupt it? This is practical wisdom. Does this person deserve condemnation? This is egoic judgment. One is useful, the other creates suffering. The story of the crooked tree. Zhuangzi tells of a carpenter traveling with his apprentice. They pass a massive oak tree near a shrine. The apprentice marvels at its size. The carpenter dismisses it as worthless. Its branches are twisted. Its trunk is crooked. It's useless for timber. That night, the tree appears to the carpenter in a dream. The tree says, "You call me worthless because I'm not useful to you, but that's why I've lived so long." Straight trees are cut down for lumber. Fruit trees are stripped bare. My crookedness is my protection. What you judge as defect is my survival. The carpenter wakes changed. His judgment of the tree was based on his narrow purpose. He wanted timber. The tree had a different purpose. Longevity, providing shade, being part of nature's ecosystem. His judgment revealed his limited perspective, not the tree's actual value. This is what all judgment does. It reveals our perspective, not objective truth. When you judge someone as lazy, you reveal that you value productivity. When you judge someone as too emotional, you reveal that you value stoicism. The judgment tells more about the judged than the judged. Observing without the need to fix. Another aspect of non-judgment. Observing without needing to fix. We judge because we want things different. That person shouldn't be that way. This situation should change. Judgment is a first step toward control, but the Tao Te Ching teaches, do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I do not believe it can be done. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to change it, you will ruin it. If you try to hold it, you will lose it. This applies to people too. When you observe without judging, you also observe without needing to fix. You see someone struggling, and you don't immediately need them to stop struggling. You see someone making choices you wouldn't make, and you don't need them to choose differently. This doesn't mean you don't help when help is requested. It means you're not constantly trying to manage everyone into fitting your vision of how they should be. The Tao works through natural process, not through force. People change through their own process, not through your judgment of them. When you stop judging and trying to fix, you create space for natural change. People feel accepted, and acceptance often enables growth better than judgment ever could. The sage's perspective. What does the Taoist sage see when looking at others? Not good or bad people, not worthy or unworthy individuals. The sage sees beings on their path, deal with their karma, working through their patterns. The Tao Te Ching says, the sage treats everyone as a child. She doesn't see some as good and others as bad. She sees all as part of the Tao, playing their role. This doesn't mean the sage is passive. She can act skillfully to prevent harm. But she doesn't add the weight of moral judgment to her actions. She responds to what is needed without condemning anyone's nature. This is compassion without judgment. It's possible. It's actually more effective than judgment with condemnation. When you judge someone as bad, you close your heart to them. When you observe their behavior as harmful but don't judge their essential nature, you can remain compassionate while addressing the harm. This is sophisticated morality. It's more nuanced than simple judgment. Judgment and the ego. Why is judgment so seductive? Because it makes the ego feel superior. When you judge someone as wrong, you implicitly place yourself as right. When you judge someone as bad, you implicitly place yourself as good. Judgment is ego reinforcement disguised as moral clarity. The Tao Te Ching warns against this. Those who praise themselves are not respected. Those who glorify themselves have no merit. Judgment is a form of self-praise. Every time you judge another, you're saying you know better, you are better. This is ego, not wisdom. When you stop judging, your ego loses one of its favorite tools. It can't constantly compare you favorably to others. This is uncomfortable initially, but it's liberating long-term. You're free from exhausting work of maintaining superiority through constant evaluation of others. The practice of radical acceptance. Observing without judging leads to radical acceptance. This doesn't mean you like everything. It doesn't mean you approve of all behaviors. It means you accept that reality is as it is right now. This person is acting this way. This situation exists. You can work to change things without judging them as wrong. You can prefer different outcomes without condemning what is. The Tao Te Ching teaches, accept and things will come to you. Resist and things will depart from you. Acceptance isn't passivity. It's clear seeing without the distortion of judgment. From this clear seeing, wise action becomes possible. But action taken from judgment is usually reactive, emotional, and ultimately ineffective. Action taken from observation is responsive, measured, and effective. The difference is profound. One comes from ego trying to control. The other comes from wisdom responding skillfully. How this changes you. When you practice observing without judging, you change. First, you become more peaceful. The constant mental chatter of evaluation quiets. You're not always running commentary on everything and everyone. Second, you become more present. Judgment pulls you into the past and future. Observation keeps you here. Third, you become more compassionate. Without the barrier of judgment, you feel connection to others even when disagreeing with their actions. Fourth, you become wiser. You see more clearly. You understand complexity rather than reducing everything to simple categories. Fifth, you become more trustworthy. People sense that you won't judge them. They open to you. They share more honestly. Your relationships deepen. Sixth, you become more free. The prison of constant evaluation dissolves. You're not bound by your categories anymore. You can see freshly in each moment. The ultimate teaching. The Taoist teaching on judgment is ultimately about humility. Humility to recognize you don't know enough to judge. Humility to admit your perspective is limited. Humility to acknowledge that what seems clearly wrong might be part of a larger pattern you can't see. The Tao Te Ching says, when you realize that you know nothing, that is when you are truly wise. Judgment comes from thinking you know. Observation comes from recognizing you don't. This recognition isn't defeat, it's liberation. You're free from the burden of being the moral arbiter of the universe. You can simply observe, respond skillfully when needed, and otherwise allow things to be as they are. This is the Taoist way. Not passive, not weak, but not constantly imposing your evaluations on reality either. It's a middle path between indifference and constant judgment. The challenge today. In modern culture, judgment is encouraged. Social media is built on judgment. News is delivered with moral commentary. We're trained to have opinions about everything and everyone. Not having a strong judgment is seen as moral weakness or intellectual laziness. But Taoism challenges this entirely. It says the wisest response is often no judgment at all. Simply observe. Simply respond when necessary. Don't add layers of evaluation that distort perception. This is countercultural. It's also profoundly liberating. You're free from the expectation to evaluate everything constantly. The practice begins now. Start today. Notice one judgment you make. Catch yourself thinking, that person is selfish, lazy, arrogant, stupid. Pause. What you actually observe. Separate the fact from the evaluation. The fact, they took the last cookie. The evaluation, they're selfish. Maybe they didn't see you wanted it. Maybe they were very hungry. Maybe they're dealing with stress you don't know about. You don't know. So observe the behavior without the judgment. Practice this repeatedly. Each time you catch a judgment, transform into pure observation. Over time, this becomes natural. You see clearly without the distorting lens of constant evaluation. You respond wisely to what is rather than reacting to what you judge should be. This is a Taoist path. This is freedom. This is wisdom. The Tao Te Ching's final teaching on this. The sage sees things as they are without adding personal bias. She acts when action serves harmony. She refrains when refrain serves peace. She never judges because judgment obscures the Tao. She observes because observation reveals truth. This is the power of observing without evaluating. Not weakness, not passivity, but clear seeing, wise response. Freedom from the prison of constant judgment. Liberation from the ego's need to evaluate everything and everyone. This is how Taoists never judge others, and why this changes everything. Thank you for watching this exploration of why Taoists never judge others and the power of observing without evaluating. If this perspective shifted how you see judgment, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this wisdom, and subscribe for more ancient philosophy applied to modern life.